So it turns out that Michael Norman was injured during the Olympics, and it wasn't a mental problem that caused him to underperform. So this video is going to give him the solution to never choke again in the finals, Olympic or World Championship. So let's go over his post. After months of diligent preparation, my team and I couldn't overcome a nagging pain in my pelvis. So let's see and hypothesize a solution. So Michael Norman does not have a problem with his fitness. Look at his shoulders, look at his arms. He's in shape. It looks like he's sprinting a 60 right here. So his running muscles are really good right now. He's in shape to run, and it showed. He ran a 44 low in the heats. So he has the shape to run, but I don't think his body in certain areas has the capability to sustain that performance, especially in this area, the pelvics. So what Michael Norman needs to do is become a Pilates guy. Yes, you heard me right. Pilates. So why Pilates? First, look at what Pilates does. Pilates can help strengthen the pelvic floor. Many Pilates exercises focus on core stability, alignment, control movements, which engage and strengthen the pelvic floor muscles. Exercises like pelvic tilts, bridges, and various core stabilization moves in Pilates promote better awareness and control of the pelvic region, contributing to overall pelvic floor strength. So my hypothesis is Michael Norman has had a hip or pelvic issue for the longest time. And I think his natural talent and muscles have grown far faster than the ligaments and the strength around his pelvic region. And this is normal. If you are a bodybuilder who is enhanced, most of your muscles are going to grow faster than your ligaments or tendons. Thus, you can get injured when trying to PR. So Michael Norman happens to get injured in finals or world championships, Olympic championship meets. That is the same as a bodybuilder going for a max PR. So that is consistent with my hypothesis that Michael Norman gets injured when he tries to max out his effort. And that is telling me that his muscles are exceeding what his bones or ligaments or whatever it is. His muscles are exceeding the capabilities and thresholds of the other parts of his body. So Michael Norman needs to stop sprinting, because if he doesn't address the weaknesses in his body, then he will always get injured when he tries to max out at championship finals. For example, like if you've ever noticed Michael Norman when he's talking or running, he has this forward head posture. I wish there was a picture where he got his side profile. Oh, perfect. I mean, he's sprinting, so it's hard to tell there. But, I mean, look at this guy. He looks more straight up. Michael Norman has a forward head posture. He's always had this, in my opinion, but this could be an underlying deficiency or weakness in some part of his body, and it's usually down in the pelvic floor where all of your imbalances show. The pelvic floor imbalances show at your extremities, which are the head, the arms, and the legs. The way you walk, the way you rock your arms, the way you tilt your head when you're writing, all of that stems from the foundation. And no surprise, all of his problems, even from Doha 2019, have been somewhere with his groin, his pelvic region, like he mentioned in this post. So Michael Norman needs to do Pilates. He needs to do these exercises. He needs to become a Pilates guy, like I said. And this is perfect. If you've ever done sports, if you only exercise a certain way, then you're going to overuse those muscles, and the other muscles you never use are going to fall behind a lot. And there's going to be a point where your agonist muscles, that you have your agonist muscles and your antagonist muscles, I believe. So the muscles that you're not using, the opposite muscles of what you're working on, those are important to your performance. For example, if you're always squatting 500 pounds, your quads and your glutes will be strong, but your hamstrings and your hip flexors are never worked. So no matter how much you squat or max out, that will not help your sprinting. It might help a little bit, but there's going to come a point where you push so much power out of your body into those blocks onto that track, that those hamstrings are going to find their limit and they're going to get shredded, or your hip flexors are going to get pulled, or you're going to hurt your groin trying to recover your legs in order to sprint fast. So I think Michael Norman has an imbalance somewhere in his hips that he needs to address, and the perfect way to do that is by doing Pilates. My breathing, I can attest to this. Pilates helped my core strength. It helped me with my posture. It helped me focus on my breathing, and especially my core movements. Like, most of you don't know, these professional athletes are top heavy and bottom heavy. They're not middle heavy. And what I mean by that is so many people have show muscles. They have great arms, great shoulders, chest, back, great legs, and if they're really diligent, they have good calves. But there is no sport, there is no discipline besides maybe gymnastics that focuses on your middle core, your pelvic region. Track runners don't really work that area. They might do cables, but they need to do some calisthenic form of movement where they're working the whole body, where they're using their core in a functional way that will carry over to their other sport. And if guys, think about this. Let's say you only do sprinting versus a clone of yourself that does Pilates, wrestling, gymnastics, swimming, all different forms of discipline, even labor, construction, farming. You're going to get so many adaptations in different muscles of your body that you're going to be a complete human being. You're going to be strong everywhere. You're not going to have any weaknesses. So when you try to sprint, your base, your floor for sprinting is going to be so high because your muscles are strong everywhere. They're well coordinated. They have so many adaptations to different activities that your body will able to use all those other strengths to stabilize the primary muscles that you're using for sprinting. And that's what many people don't realize. The people who get injured the most are the people who do that sport the most. It's not the people who do the sport the least. And I bet that sounds logical to you, but now think about it. Why would somebody who practices something more or does it more intense, with more intensity, would get injured more? Well, first, you think that wouldn't make sense, because if you practice it more, that means your body has adapted to it. But in fact, that's going to hurt you. If you're more adapted to a certain activity and you keep doing it, there's marginal returns and marginal adaptation returns. So you're not really improving. All you're doing is beating up your body and stressing it out. The way to improve is let it recover, and if you want to strengthen your body to improve performance, you need to strengthen different areas that will help or enhance the performance of the primary muscles. For example, if you're a sprinter, do some side-to-side lateral drills like a cornerback, because that's going to work out. I know this sounds crazy, but hear me out. That's going to work out your muscles that are on the inside of your thigh and the outside of your thigh, the outside of your calf, inside and out, inside of your what's the front muscle called? This one right here that I'm zooming in. So the opposing muscle of the calf, it starts with a T, tibialis, your tibialis. So doing side-to-side drills are going to strengthen the muscles on the other parts of your leg that when you start sprinting, they will stabilize your primary muscles, if that makes sense. If you've ever worked out on gymnastic rings and you've done a dip, you know that the dip movement is so hard on rings compared to a normal dip bar. You know why? Because the normal dip bar is fixed. So when you do a dip, you use less energy to perform the movement and you can do more reps. Now, though, that stabilized fixed dip bar is the same as if you had super strong, not primary muscle, but like super strong muscles that you don't use in sprinting. The side muscles, in this case for the legs, the inner muscles, the side muscles, that all the muscles that you use to go side to side, that is your fixed metal dip bar. If those are super strong when you're sprinting, you're going to be able to perform a sprint much easier with less energy wasted. And back to my rings analogy, if you're doing dips on Olympic rings, most of the time you're trying to stabilize yourself and wasting so much energy trying to stabilize yourself that you do less dips. And if you're not strong enough, you can get injured. So that goes to show, if you have weak stabilizer muscles or weak muscles in other areas that you never worked out, then you're more likely to get injured. And to me, Michael Norman doesn't have strength in other areas. He looks strong. He has the muscles. He's ripped. He's in shape. But he doesn't have strength in other areas. Thus, when he tries to go to a high output, maximal intensity, his primary muscles have weak antagonists or agonists. I forgot you know what I mean. But his other muscles that he never uses are so weak, they can't support his performance. That's why he's getting hip problems. He's getting injured. He's not showing up at big meets. And this is consistent with going from college to pro. When you go from college to pro, I'm sure most athletes' training gets more intense. And in college, Michael Norman was injured his first year, but he wasn't injured his second year. And it's because he did some type of training that allowed his body to catch up to what it could produce. But once he went pro, he skipped that step or didn't do it correctly, and he started having injuries. So that's why when you're a professional track and field athlete, I don't know why none of these guys on social media post this. They need to start doing every other sport in their off season, because that will create a great base for strength, injury prevention, and it'll help their performance once they get back to sprinting. Guys, think about this. Let's say you take a noob you, a clone of you who has never worked out in their life, and they only train sprinting. And then you take another you who never has sprinted but has worked out in the fields, has done swimming, has done everything you can imagine, rock climbing, football workouts, everything except sprinting. Who do you think is going to progress faster and be injury-free? It's going to be the person that has had more experiences doing other disciplines, because all of their other muscles are strengthened. They've had many adaptations. Their body has adapted to so many forms of stress that when it's time to become a good sprinter, they have strength in so many areas that can support the progression of sprinting, and they will progress much faster because they're using less energy. They're getting stressed out less. Remember the dip bar analogy. You dip on straight bars of metal, it's easier because those dip bars are like your stabilizer muscles, your other muscles you never use in sprinting. They're strong. In this case, they're strong, thus you can do more dips. But the Olympic rings, are in this case like Michael Norman. His other muscles are just weak. His pelvic floor is weak. So he's wasting so much energy and stressing his body to perform on those rings. This is still an analogy that he injures himself. He gets exhausted much faster. That's why he's not producing 43s like he was in college. So take it as you will, Michael Norman. If you understood everything I said, thank you, because it was so hard to word this in a way where he could understand. And I'm not trying to diss Michael Norman. I honestly believe in Michael Norman. He just needs to do other activities. Stop sprinting. And guys, Michael Norman is a hard worker. They always talk about how he's working hard and everything. And that's actually his weakness. He needs to stop working hard in the sprints and needs to start working hard. He needs to start working hard in Pilates, in yoga, in other areas that will help his middle part of the body, not the upper. He has that. He has the legs. I'm talking about the middle region, the hips. And this would be sports that focus on the hips. Calisthenics, gymnastics. Work on the bars where gymnasts raise their legs. Do that. Do swimming core exercises. Do all the core exercises you can to strengthen your hips this off season until next year. Incorporate it into your routine, and you will never get injured again. If you happen to have an injury ever again, it's not going to be in your upper body because you're not stressing it when you're running. It might be in your calf, but it's never happened. The only injuries Michael Norman gets is in his pelvic region. That is the weakest part of his body, so he needs to strengthen that. He needs to strengthen every single muscle by doing as many activities as he can, so he'll never get injured again. All right, Michael Norman? I hope all of you took something away from this. So, Michael Norman, do Pilates, do everything. And stop sprinting for a while, and you'll never be injured again. And you will win the next championship guaranteed.